On radar right now, we're quiet across the triad. Let me show you what's happening up though in the foothills and mountains. There's been some scattered rain, just regular old rain showers up over the mountains, and a few of those are making their way into the foothills now. What that can do is actually stabilize the air or sort of get rid of the thunderstorm fuel that's out that way. So as the front approaches, it might not have much success in forming some strong storms in those areas, which means it would be a little bit delayed reaching us. So as that front gets closer to us, we may start to see some pop-ups, but it might not be a very organized line. So there's a lot of different variables here as we go into the afternoon and a lot of options on the table. You can see back to the west, there's the cold front out over parts of Knoxville and parts of Tennessee that'll be moving our way as we go into this evening. Earlier this morning, there were a couple of severe storms and even a tornado warning on that initial line. But as you can tell, a lot of that's falling apart as it comes across our North Carolina mountains. The mountains change things for us to some degree from time to time. So here's the big setup. Cold front moving by. It's quick moving, and that line of storms will be quick moving as well. Like I said, it's only a small window into the afternoon that we'll have to watch. Once that moves on by, we'll be clearing things out overnight, and drier weather comes back for the weekend. A stray shower or a pop-up storm isn't totally out of the question, but I don't think we have a lot to worry about for your Saturday or for your Sunday. We'll have some more sunshine back too. I'm going to add one little caveat to the forecast here. I know, one more thing after a busy week of weather, but with our front moving by and a low pressure taking off to the north and east, our winds are going to be coming in out of the northwest tomorrow. And it could bring a little bit of that wildfire smoke out of Canada into the Piedmont. So if you notice a little bit of haze in the sky tomorrow, not cloud cover, but haze, that's probably from those Canadian wildfires. All right, not much to worry about there. Let's go through in time on Futurecast and show you how the rest of the afternoon stacks up. And we'll take you through 2, 3, 4 o'clock, which I think might be our busiest time frame. Here we go. 1, 2 o'clock, you see a couple of showers and storms popping up in the western Piedmont. And then as we move toward 3 and 4 o'clock, we see a few more of those. And that's where I think really the meat of our system is going to be. Now watch, this morning we were expecting a pretty organized line, but with the rain over the mountains, that may chop this up a bit. So it may be a bit more scattered. But I really think our busiest time in the heart of the triad is still between about 3, 4, and 5 o'clock. After that, I expect we'll be clearing things out, and we likely will have a nice sunset this evening. A lot of folks have been asking me about the Greensboro Grasshoppers. Yeah, I think they're going to play baseball, and I'm actually pretty hopeful that game will start on time, slated for 6:30, and I think by then all the storm threat is east of our area. Like I said, I don't expect that storm risk or severe storm threat to remain through 8 o'clock. I don't think it's going to go that long. Overnight, we'll continue to clear things out. Temperatures will go back down into the mid-50s. Again, your Saturday by and large is a nice day of weather, partly cloudy. Again, low chance of a stray or pop-up shower or storm, but I really don't think we have much to worry about there. Severe risk, this is an update from our earlier 10 o'clock streaming forecast update, but we have been upgraded most of our area in the triad and south and east to a level 3 risk for severe storms. Now, that doesn't mean that the storms are going to be worse or that there's going to be more of them. It just really means that there's more confidence there's going to be some severe weather in those areas. And this has mostly been introduced for our high wind risk that we have this afternoon. So when you boil it down, there is a tornado risk, there's a hail risk, but damaging winds are going to be our main concern this afternoon. There's a significant to pretty high risk of damaging winds. You'll see that highlighted with that pink shading there on the right side of your screen. The hail risk also at a medium today, and this would be the third hailstorm that we've had this spring season. You think back, you may have damage. I had damage from our first one back in March, and we had another one a few weeks later. If this really turns out and to materialize into a big hail situation, it would be our third one. So if you're able to do so, parking under cover, under a carport, in a garage, that's all good things to do this afternoon. Again, if you have the ability to do that. Tornado risk is not zero. It is a lower risk than the hail or the damaging winds, but still something that we'll watch. It wouldn't shock me to have a warning or two. So that's why we've stressed to you have a way to get those warnings, to get those alerts in case they are issued. And of course, we'll be here with you all through the afternoon into this evening and tracking it for you in real time. So there's the rest of your Friday. Like I said, most of our Friday is dry time. There's just that window in the afternoon that we have to watch, mostly from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. for the triad. East of our area, you're looking later into the evening, 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock, and that's down toward eastern North Carolina. Okay, so bottom line, it's not a bad day of weather. We're just watching the afternoon, and especially be watching that for your evening commute, for your Friday dinner plans, or anything that you have planned to be going on this evening. I think you're going to be fine. This is out of here really after 5 and 6 o'clock. So tonight, partly cloudy. We'll be clearing. Temperatures get cool again as we go into the mid-50s. And if you step outside today, have you noticed how humid it is? Yeah, it's really sticky. It was sticky yesterday too. That humidity is going to get wiped out a good bit by our cold front. So we don't have much humidity to deal with for Saturday, Sunday, or really even Monday. But as we go into next week, and you'll see this in the 7-day forecast in just a moment, you're going to notice the heat comes back and the humidity starts to come back as well. So there's your weekend. 77 for your Saturday, partly cloudy, so there's plenty of sunshine. But again, don't be totally shocked if there's a pop-up shower or storm. I don't think most of us will have to worry about that, as we're mostly dry tomorrow. Same scenario for your Sunday, mainly dry. Temperatures in the upper 70s to near 80. So that's a really nice weekend, sort of a payback after the cool Sunday and Monday, Memorial Day, that we just had earlier in the week. So after we jump through today, well, we're pretty much home free for a while in the 7-day forecast, and nice to see that too. My yard, my garden, my plants, probably yours too, need some opportunity to actually dry up a bit. So we are not in a drought, if you're worried about that. After the weekend, we get back up to 80 on Monday, back to the mid and upper 80s heading into the middle of next week. So summer really is going to start to make a comeback. I just feel like it's been a little bit delayed this week, don't you? Especially after all the rain. So again, just be watching this afternoon. That News 2 weather impact alert goes until 8 o'clock. But like I said, I think the severe weather risk is gone well before that, especially the way that things are trending and with the latest data that we've seen. So we'll be here to track it with you all afternoon. Of course, as we get into the weekend, I wouldn't cancel any kind of plans. I'd find some way, some reason to be outside and take advantage of drier and warmer weather that's finally starting to come back. We'll look ahead to summer next week, Meg.
All right, a lot to dissect and cover here.
Yeah.
Let's talk first about this severe weather that has infiltrated other parts of the South. We heard of reported tornadoes overnight, widespread devastation. Is this what we're getting here part of that same system?
Part of the same system. It's a fast-moving cold front, and so as it taps into a lot of heat and humid air and energy down across the deep south, that's where we've seen a lot of those big severe weather risks the last few days. It's just kind of transferring to us today, and like I said, our mountains do a lot for us. If you've lived here long enough, you know the kind of influence the mountains and the coast play on our weather here, and that we're starting to see that come into effect today. Initially, I didn't really expect there to be a lot happening in the mountains. We've seen more of those showers form over that area. So as that line starts to form, it really gets limited over the mountains. So that's helping to chop things up for us a little bit as we go into the afternoon.
We've seen all kinds of strange weather this week, starting off in the 50s, then a lot of rain. Last night, we showed those pictures in our new newscast. Albemarle, flash flooding there. Flash flooding, extremely dangerous. Thankfully, there were no reported injuries. What caused all of that?
Honestly, it was a little bit of a surprise. I saw the scattered showers and maybe a few storms, but what happened was, as all that cool air is rushing out of the storm, it actually acts as sort of a spark. As it rushes out, it starts to form new ones. And so it was just sort of a positive feedback loop of that happening. So there were places, Stanley County, Albemarle, down in New London, the Baden Lake area, that had a lot of rain. There were places that got, half a foot of rain in a matter of a couple hours. I saw radar estimates, but 6 inches of rain down in parts of New London, a little over 3 to 4 inches in El Dorado, down in Montgomery County. So there were some folks that were dealing with some real flooding issues down that way last night. I don't expect that to happen today, just because it's so fast moving. Like I said, most of our time is dry today, even though we have this severe risk. So it may storm at your house, but that may only last for 30 minutes to an hour. But that 30 minutes to an hour may really pack a punch.
Yeah, going back to Albemarle, you have Baden Lake. It's quite popular this time of year. El Dorado has the Outpost, a popular spot when people are hiking through Uwharrie National Forest. So this is a big deal for them, and hopefully they get some time to dry out before the weekend ahead. So regarding the weather we're getting today, you've kind of narrowed the time frame a bit for the severe stuff. When you hear the word tornado, even if it's just a potential threat, it's hard not to panic. We've seen the devastation these tornadoes have caused in the South. What factors this afternoon could spawn a tornado if we were to have one at all? Well,
so damaging wind is really our main concern. And there's a significant risk, or to high risk really, if storms materialize in the way they think they could. Again, there's no guarantee here, but if they do, the damaging wind gusts would be a real concern. The other thing you have to think about is how wet the ground is, right? We had so much rain over the last few days, and especially Tuesday and into Wednesday, and then last night to the south. So the ground is very soggy. The ground is loose. So it wouldn't take a whole lot in the way of high wind to pull down some trees and cause some power outages. So that's what we'll watch for this afternoon. The hail factor is also a medium risk today. If that materializes, it'll be our third hailstorm that we've had so far this spring season. And folks still haven't had their vehicles, me included, fixed from the first one because things are so backed up. So it's going to take some time. That's why I urged on the side of caution, if you can park under a carport or in a garage, or at least some kind of cover this afternoon, just until those storms get by, that's a good thing. The tornado risk is lower, but it's not zero. So it's still something we have to watch. And really, when storms come through an organized line, like initially we were talking about, they don't have as much opportunity to go off on their own and spin.
Yeah.
If the mountains chopping up our system today leads to more scattered storms rather than a line, storms out on their own would have a better opportunity to start to rotate. So that's why we just kind of have to be on guard. There's so much wind energy, and the wind is spinning and rotating above our heads.
Yeah.
And when you get a storm that forms in that environment, it's easy to spin up a quick tornado. So I wouldn't totally rule out a tornado or a couple warnings this afternoon.
Yeah.
That's why I say just have those alerts ready to go.
So is the wind threat high enough where our viewers who are living in mobile homes or perhaps working in trailers will want to have a backup plan this afternoon?
I would. You know, it's always great to have a backup plan. And I think sometimes we say, oh, it's a severe thunderstorm warning, it's not a tornado warning, so I'm not going to worry about it. But you should really treat those in the same sense.
Yeah.
You know, because damaging wind can do as much damage, if not more damage, than a tornado. Every situation is different. And so today, if there's a situation where there's a severe thunderstorm warning and there's possibility of 60+ mile/hour winds, you really got to treat that seriously. And I would find a safe spot to be until that storm gets through.
It seems like we've had a more active than normal spring. Is it just my imagination, or is there really some data to back that up?
You know, it's odd.
Yeah.
We haven't, up to this point, you know, not trying to jinx anything, but I'll say in the past up to this point,
Sure.
it's been a couple years since we had a really bad situation in terms of severe weather.
Okay.
Of course, you're always on your toes here in the spring. And spring is really our primary severe weather season. Fall is kind of the secondary. But when you talk about those seasons bringing about severe weather, you have to think about what's happening. Really, spring and fall are transition seasons, right? We're going from cold now to hot in the summer.
Yeah.
And we get into the summer, and it's really hit or miss pop-up storms.
Sure.
But the big changes going from cold to hot and the atmosphere being set up in the way it is what drives severe weather. So that's why we're usually the busiest March, April, and May, and then things start to tamp down a little bit as we go into June. So the hail risk is part of that reason. You know, we still have cold air way up above our heads, so we get a strong thunderstorm, the air lifts enough and keeps bouncing it back and forth into that freezing layer, and that's where you get those hailstones to form.
Speaking of June, this Sunday, June 1st, is the start of hurricane season. That's wild.
Can't believe it. It's come around again. Just looking at the outlook for that, you know, expect it to be busy. No shocker there.
Right.
But maybe not as busy as last year. The one thing that's kind of helping us out a little bit is that it seems like the water is a little bit cooler or has stayed cooler longer.
Good.
So it'll take a little longer to heat up. So that may tamp down, at least in the initial stage of hurricane season, but it's always hard to tell. And you know, even if you expect 13, 14, 15 storms, it only takes one.
Takes one big one to do a lot of damage. A storm like Helene.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look, here we are 8 months later, still dealing with repairs and communities that have lost so much tourism because of the damage caused by just one storm that hit the wrong area.
And that's the worst, at least worst storm that we've had in modern day history for our part of the state.
Wow. All right, well, thank you for answering a lot of our questions, and thank you for taking time to watch our extended weather coverage. We'll be continuing these updates throughout the day-to-day through the duration of that risk period we're in, but definitely budget plans and timing accordingly this afternoon as we head into the evening hours.
And I wouldn't be shocked, just keep an eye out, I wouldn't be shocked if we get a severe thunderstorm watch that's issued. Doesn't mean severe weather's happening, it just means conditions are right. So you may get an alert on your phone for that. After a while, that's a possibility, but just keep tabs on the weather. We should be through with it by about 6 o'clock.
All right, thanks for joining us.
All right.
We'll see you soon.
See ya.